Elena. So, Karina, can you start with the first slide, please? Let's share the screen. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next slide, Karina. And I just wanted to talk about the agenda for the day. So we're going to talk about the contest roles, and Karina Castella is going to manage that. And then we're going to move forward and I'll work with her on that. Then we're going to talk about the hybrid contest technology solutions. And Phil Nylund is going to help us with that. So let's just jump into this and get started. Karina, the next slide, please, and I'll let you take it over. Welcome, Karina.
You're muted.
I know, excuse me, managing, it shows already what kind of problems you can have managing online meeting and sharing presentation. Welcome everyone. I just couldn't find the button how to unmute myself. And it can happen during the contest, believe me, some things so strange as just changing the slides and some buttons that does not work well, that the way you would like them to work. Toastmaster hybrid contest today. I think all of you are already very familiar because it's running the hybrid mode since after COVID. And it's already the second year when we allow, promote, and we are obliged to organize some contests starting area level up to the district in a hybrid mode. It makes our life not easy. We have experts today, as Mario explained, but I would like just to remind everyone something very simple, the Toastmaster contest roles. Everyone knows this, but we'll talk about how those roles particularly behave and are managed in the hybrid mode. So we have a contest chair on site. This is really preferred. The contest chair is managing people and welcoming contestants and everyone in the room on site, as well those online. Then we have a contest Toastmasters. It's an optional function. The contest chair is managing the contest overall, but he can have a special person on the stage managing different contests or interviewing the contestants or just being there for a small talk if he or she, if they have a problem and have to fix something in the background. Then we have even host. Yes, it's also the one of those roles that I already mentioned. Sergeant at arms, you know this function. It's a kind of police controlling entrance and exit. And you will need this function on site and online because we will have some contestants like for the evaluation or table topic contest who will have to wait in the waiting room created in Zoom or outside your on-site space. Then we have a role of a chief judge and voting judge. Both can be online or on-site. Chief judge does not have to be on-site. However, those persons have to be very well connected with the contest chair. So if you are choosing option that you don't have contest chair and chief judge in the same room, please assure the mode of communication between themselves through phone, WhatsApp, that they can immediately fix a problem or a question between themselves if needed. And you have tie-breaking judge. This is the chief judge team, of course, ballot counters who can be on-site preferred because they will collect the votes. It depends also on the mode of voting you choose. We said last 2 years, uncomplicated way to fill the ballots online on your iPhone, but it may happen not everyone is doing this. So somehow to manage this, the ballot counter in the room can collect also a paper ballot from someone. We have also timers, and I think this role will be very well explained also later. How is it important to have this team of two together close to each other and assure, if they are in the room, that they are very well visible and have a separate camera if they are on site for those who compete online. Audiovisual technician on site. Excuse me, I have to move something on my screen. We have a Zoom master and then hybrid master. Those three can be also one person, but we do not recommend it. We have to split whatever is technically happening on site from what's happening online. And that's why you need at least Zoom master who's focusing on contestants and all those roles, managing people coming in, out, as an audience, as a speaker, as a judge, evaluator, whatever, online, the Zoom master, and you have a role of hybrid master that could be this audiovisual technician, one person on site. I think now I covered, so I stop sharing my screen. Yeah, oh, just to remind you, a room setting, which we will also cover in the session. You see the speaker with the microphone. This is one topic, very important. Then the camera, setting of the camera. Where do you put the screen? How do you project the audience or the speaker on the screen or evaluator if needed? And how do you group the Zoom master with 3-bit master and contest chair, who has to be close to them and also coming on the stage? Then the position of 2 timers and supplementary additional cameras. I see that Nigel has a question, please.
I'm sorry, but I haven't understood the difference between a contest Toastmaster and the event host.
I said it could be the same person. Event host is someone putting an event all together. It means this person is responsible for the room, for the whole setting, and will assure the overall, development of the whole contest. I give you just an example. Last year in our division contest, we had a person who organized the room, who organized equipment, who organized connection with the catering, who was receiving us, opening the doors, checking on the light in the room, you know, that the oversetting of the venue. And also
I mean, I thought the organization was the contest chair, whereas the
contest chair in the
sure
Toastmaster.
That the room is okay is the sergeant at arms. I don't see, it's like we're splitting everything into more roles, and I don't understand.
Nigel, you need sometimes by the complex contest, especially on division level, some helpers. So we gave them this responsibility. Okay. And if there is a person overall assuring coordination, it is the overall coordination, the top of everyone is a contest chair. Contest chair actually should choose also chief judge, should choose the venue, and he can delegate all possible roles. So if you have someone taking care about the event as an event, setting the contest chair will choose his host.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. I give it now back to you, Mario.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Karina. A good explanation. And Nigel, I think what we're just trying to say is that a contest chair needs supporting roles in some cases, not always, but in some cases. So now we're going to move on to the more technical aspect of this discussion. A lot of details is going to come from Phil Nylund. He is an expert in hybrid meetings. He's a relatively new Toastmaster, and I compliment him for stepping forward and doing this presentation today. So let me, Phil, give you the floor, and you can share your screen as you like. So welcome, Phil.
Mario, me and Amber have some questions. Can we ask them, or do we have to wait?
You can ask now. We'll try and do some quick questions now. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Just one point of clarification for me, please. You said that the contest chair is the one who finds and fills all of these roles. I was told that it was the contest coordinator.
These are all one and the same. It depends on what responsibility every person is willing to take on. So in a club contest, a contest chair would be the same. At the area level, it could be two different roles, but probably the contest chair would be the contest coordinator. At the division, as it gets bigger and bigger, then those roles change and the definition of those roles will change.
Okay.
In our next session, which I think is on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to cover some of this information in more detail.
Christina, I also invite you to come to read in the rule book, because this is exactly this information is from the rule book that I shared with you.
Right. Was there another question? Yes, Christina.
Me? You were saying the role of audio visual technician. So it's as I understand, the person who is going to take care of microphone projectors. So something happens, this person comes and rushes and fixes everything, and it's different from the Zoom master.
Exactly, we call it also hybrid master. It depending how many people you can involve. Experience showed that we never had enough, and we charge extremely. The Zoom master, who was at the same time a hybrid master, it could really conduct to a high stress and high pressure. So that's why we just today added those roles. Of course, if you manage to have the people with the technical know-how, that can help you.
Yeah. Last year in our division, we were having troubles with our audiovisual at the last minute, and the hybrid master was involved and was preoccupied with the audiovisual and not looking after the meeting and getting people into the meeting remotely. So it's really good if you can have some separate people to manage those individual functions.
Thank you.
Okay, we will have time for more questions. I'm going to hand the floor over to Phil. Phil, welcome again.
Thanks so much, Mario. And it's really great pleasure to be here with you today. I'm just going to share my screen. Maybe if Mario, if you can give a quick hand signal if you're able to see it.
We see it. Please.
Awesome. Perfect. So good evening, everyone. And yeah, thanks to Mario and Karina for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. First, before I start, since I'm a relatively new member, I'd like to introduce myself briefly. So my name is Phil Nylund. I joined Toastmasters in November of last year, so really fresh. In my day job, I'm an IT advisor at a global medical device company called Becton Dickinson, which is about like 15 minutes away from Geneva. They have an office in Nyon. And I have 11 years of experience in supporting and maintaining corporate IT environments. And before that, I was in event technology, filmmaking, sound engineering. Yes, so having that, it helps me in my current role where I've supported around 300 live events in the past 3 years. So we do an average of 100 events per year. And if I looked at the previous roles that were there, I think I most identify with this audio video technology specialist role. These things are quite native to me. So what I tried to do in this presentation is build something up for anyone. So to get like from zero to hero. So there will be like a huge plethora of information. And the goal for me is just to show you what there is so that you can later think about your own situation and identify which technology is the right one for you. Okay, so here we go. Before we start, I always like to ask a question. And Mario posed me with one that is really particular for us today. And the question is, what actually is a hybrid environment? So let's have a quick look. When I would have to define this with my own words, I would have to be honest, I'd struggle a little bit. So I used my good friend ChatGPT on getting somehow my hand around the term in a way that no one will challenge me on how my definition is, because I think it's quite thought through. So basically, a hybrid environment is as soon as you have some participants physically present in the same location while having other people remotely via video conference. That's, I think, kind of the shortest way of defining hybrid environment. And the special thing about it is it combines all elements of the traditional in-person setup with remote meetings as the virtual one that we're having at the moment. I know from, I've not been in Toastmasters so long, but I know that in some Toastmaster clubs, they actually hold virtual club meetings all the time. So I guess there are some virtual clubs. So we can definitely internally leverage on some of the best practices for that part. But today we want to focus on how we combine those virtual meetings with the in-person meetings, so that we can hold hybrid contests. Now, facilitating hybrid meetings, it can be challenging because it's difficult to ensure that everyone has equal access to technology. That's especially important for contests. And we need the ability to participate or to facilitate that people can participate effectively. And therefore, I want to show you some suitable audio and video conferencing technology, and hopefully help to demystify some of these, introduce you to new ones that you may have not seen before. And yeah, the goal is to give you an overview of the setup options for contest meetings. I have been in one contest as an audience member before. It was really nice. It was in Nyon, but I don't believe that that was live streamed anywhere. So where I'm coming from is I've seen it once. So definitely you on the call, I assume that you have maybe seen more than one before, so you definitely have the edge on the specificities for Toastmasters. But I'll try to complement that with the technology side, which I don't know exactly how deeply you are into the technology, but definitely by the end of this meeting, at least you will have seen all of what is possible. But I don't think the expectation is that you will retain and remember every single thing that I said. So what you can do is you can lean back, watch this a little bit like a television program. The parts that are relevant to you, pay full attention. And the other parts, maybe you will learn something that you hadn't thought about. And I hope there's something that you can take from it. On the screen here, you can already see some of the different environments from which people might be connecting. And in the following slide, we're going to be looking at a few more. This could be, for example, an auditorium. Some of the larger clubs, they may have access to rooms, where you have many chairs and you have a sound system and a big screen and everything. Some technology may already be there. Other technology may be missing. So we're going to have a look at what kind of technology could be used in such larger rooms. Sometimes clubs have a mid-size, so they may book a conference room or something like this, and they come in all different shapes and forms. Here we have a U-shaped form, and depending on which layout the room has, then you always have to kind of find a way to make it work. So we're going to have a look at which different technology options we have. And so just keep in mind, when I show you the different technology options, I would recommend for you to think about the rooms that you see yourself supporting, and then try to think about, okay, could that make sense for my room or not? And if you're not sure, we have a reserved space sometime at the end of the training or this demonstration where you can ask any question. And there are no silly questions, so feel free. and you can note it down because I'm going to be presenting for quite some time. If you have something that you think is completely out of order, if you think that I'm saying something that doesn't make any sense at all, don't hesitate to interrupt me, or if you have a very urgent question, you can always interrupt me. But we will have, additionally to that, reserved some time at the end where we can then do a more deeper dive. So if you have something that's a bit more complex, perhaps, that requires more of a consultation thing, then let's perhaps do that at the end. But simple questions anytime throughout the presentation. Alrighty, so here we have someone's living room, and I don't know exactly under which conditions people try to do a home setup, so I just thought I'll show a few living rooms here where there may be some technology. Some people have televisions. That can always help. Exactly. So I don't know if this is also something that you have at Toastmasters, but I think there are some corporate clubs, and the corporate clubs, they may have access to video conferencing rooms. That's convenient, right? Because usually you just have to invite them to the meeting and then everything's connected. But I think the meeting today is more for those of you that don't have access to pre-built conferencing rooms, and for those of you who are tasked to invent your own setup to mimic what a professional conference room could look like. And the way we're going to do this today is we're going to have a look at maybe a classroom setup. And the reason that I chose this one is that it's very close to the kind of setup of the Geneva International Club. So basically what I'm going to try to do is start with this classroom and figure out, okay, if I was tasked, so this is the kind of the mental image that I gave myself. If I was tasked with the job of ordering equipment for this room to make a hybrid event work, what requirements would I need to fulfill? Because that's usually the ideal situation is you first have to figure out what do you want, what do you need, before you start looking at what technology you're gonna throw at the solution. Because obviously, give me a solution, right? You will see throughout the presentation there are endless solutions available. But we first need to get a clear understanding of what it is that are our basic requirements, so that we don't get sidetracked. Because there are so cool things out there on the internet. You can, for someone like me who is a technology enthusiast, that's cool. But I think for others that may not have the same passion, this can be exactly the problem, that there are so much different things and the solutions can do everything, that it's maybe good to just look at, okay, what is it that I actually need, so that you can have an easier time selecting the solution and you don't get lost within the maze of all the options. So let's do this. Let's look at the basic requirements for on-site rooms together. I tried to simplify this, and the first thing that you need to do is you need to create a stage for the presenter. It may sound a bit bizarre to mention this, but some classrooms, they actually don't have enough space in the front because we're going to be adding some equipment. And as soon as you add equipment, you may lose some of the space. So the first thing is you have to define, okay, where is the stage? And we're going to have a look at how to do that. So once you know what your stage is, you need to figure out a way to film that stage so that it can be captured and other people can see it. The next task is you have to capture the presenter's voice that is standing on the stage in the room. That's super critical. The next task is you have to make the remote presenter's voice audible on site. So let's say you have one of the contestants that is calling in from far away. You need the people that are sitting in your room, you need to make sure that they are able to hear that person. So that's a task. The next task is I put it in as optional because I believe if you're really constrained on the amount of technology that you have, you might be able to waive this one. Now, I don't know if within Toastmasters this is an absolute no-go, but that was just my feeling. Mario, what you just waved your hand?
You're correct, Phil. Yeah, you're correct. It's an optional thing.
It is an optional thing. Okay, so that was my assumption. That's why I kind of put it in brackets. But thanks for confirming. I mean, it really depends. Some clubs, they have members that are multi-billionaires, and perhaps then money is not an issue. But other clubs, they may be constrained, and then it's like it can make a difference whether we start adding additional equipment or not. And this is an area where if the means are not there, this is something you can skip. The next thing is you need to display a remote presenter in the local room. I mean, there's no sense to listen to the radio version of a speech and just hear the audio, but you also want to see the person. So you have to find a way to display the remote presenter in the local room. And the last thing, don't panic, because there usually are solutions to all of these problems, no matter in which room you are. And if you have a good audio video specialist, they will help you and they will run through the fire for you. But you need to be able to articulate what you want, because these things, they cannot read your mind. So throughout this presentation, I hope that I can give you some of the right vocabulary to express what it is that you want, or to more precisely express what it is that is not working. Because for me, as an IT support specialist, the worst thing that I have in my job is people that come to me telling me that there's a problem without any details about what the problem is. So the first thing then I have to ask is, well, what is the problem about? And then if they are missing the vocabulary, it's hard. So I hope that based on what I'm going to show you today, you will have an easier time with the communication aspect between maybe hyper-technical people like myself and less technical people that just want it to work.
Phil,
I think Nigel had a brief question. I know he has to leave.
Yeah, I just
Nigel.
want to say thank you very much, Phil, and I'll be in touch soon, because I think we might need you for our Division D contest. So speak soon, and thank you very much. But unfortunately, I've got another meeting now, so I'm leaving. And
Me
I'll see you
too.
soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks for
Bye
being
now.
there. See you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Bye.
Back to you, Phil.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So here we are in our Geneva club simulator. And I don't know if you saw it in the previous picture, but we had one table. So what I did is to fulfill the first requirement, I went ahead and I removed one of the tables in the front. It makes life much easier if you have more space, so you can put up all of your technology. Next, just for fun, we need an audience. So I'm going to give us an audience here. And let's put someone on stage just to see it. Okay, so the remote people, they basically want to see the stage. So they ask themselves, I want to see the stage. And then it's like to the technical team, make it happen. So how do we do that? The best way is we put up a camera somewhere in the front and point it towards the stage. Now, that's easily said, but the question is, which camera do we use? And there are many different options. So let's go through the different types. The easiest option, or one of the easy options, is just use a laptop and use the built-in camera. And then you kind of have to find a way to put it somewhere in the front. Maybe you put a box on the table to make sure that the eye level, like that the lens is on the eye level, so that that the person is not like talking down. But there are some challenges with that, because the design of a laptop is made so that you can show people up to a distance of 1 meter. And as soon as you go further away, it can happen that the image becomes blurry, because the lens in the camera, it might not be able to adjust the sharpness of the image. It's just a limitation of laptop cameras. So if you place the laptop too far away, the image will not look good. So there are some, right, this option is easily accessible. Almost everyone kind of has access to a laptop, but there are some constraints there. So this is really about optimizing then the distance, the positioning. And there's also a challenge, because as soon as you have your contestant and they see a laptop in front of them, there is stuff happening on the screen usually, which can be distracting. So using a laptop, yes, it's possible if you're really constrained, but it's not really the best because it can introduce distractions and the quality maybe it's not the best. A much better option is to use a smartphone. And the more recent smartphones, they usually have quite good cameras built into them. Feature films for Hollywood have been made with smartphone cameras. So it's good enough. It has all the pixels that you need. The only challenge there is you can't have someone holding the camera during the contest. You need some accessories to mount it. So let's have a look at some of these accessories. A relatively cheap one is like one that is called a goose neck. And that's kind of that tube that's holding the smartphone. And it allows you to clip the smartphone to a desk or something like that, or to a chair. And then you can position it however you want so that the contestant is visible nicely. It's like 25 francs or something like that. I guess even a club that's constrained on resources might be able to find a way to come up with that. However, if you take the really cheap one, the challenge is you don't know how long is it going to remain in position. So you have to test it out. I cannot tell you if you get the kicker land gooseneck, this is going to work. I actually think that this one is one of the cheapest ones, so I'm not sure I would recommend it for, like, if someone does a presentation for an hour like myself, I don't know if it's going to hold in one position for the full hour, if at some point it goes down. So that's the risk with these things. You have to try it, test it, and see which one works for you. Depends on the weight of the smartphone as well, different factors. Right, so you need to figure out which one is the most reliable one. A better option is if you use the table tripods, which, yeah, you clip your smartphone in there, and you can put it on the table. Here I have a model that's not the cheapest one. I haven't tried this one, but I guess as soon as you go in that price range, the thing should be rock solid and last for years. The only thing that you need to kind of look at is when you get such a tripod is that the mounting clip that is compatible with your smartphone. Some smartphones are really large, and it depends which clip you have. You have to kind of look at the specifications to see that it's big enough to fit your phone. Challenge on that one is the legs are really short. So if you don't have a table close enough, you can't put that on the floor. That's not going to work. And some of you may be thinking, hey, Phil, why are you presenting a 76 franc tripod? There are much cheaper ones available, like this one, which I actually have, and I think it's fantastic. It's the cheapest tripod I know. There's just one caution, a word of caution on this. It's really cheap equipment, so you kind of need to take special care and avoid it from breaking. But so if you don't have the money, this is a great option. This thing does the trick. You put your smartphone in there and it doesn't, like, it holds its position. The only thing is, like, you can't, like, it's called a traveler, but I wouldn't go traveling with it because it will break for sure. Yeah. So on the other side, if your club has more money and you want to see what would a professional tripod look like, you can get the same for much more money, of course. And then, just as an analogy, just the tripod adapter screw costs more than my cheap tripod. So yes, you can get something that has more quality, but it will cost much more. So usually a good brand would be Manfrotto for a tripod. Now, you don't have to buy it. Maybe someone in the club is a photographer or a videographer, so you could borrow this perhaps. Therefore, think about these options. You don't have to buy it. You may be able to borrow it. And this would be a very nice one to borrow. Now, we've looked now at, like, using a smartphone. That's not the only option. As I'm working in the corporate environment, there are some other options. The only challenge with those is they're really expensive. But I wanted to show them to you for inspiration because I think they're really cool solutions. One of them on the left is this Meeting Owl, which is it has a loudspeaker, a microphone, and a 360-degree camera. So if you're in a smaller group and you sit at a round table, as soon as you talk, it will focus on you and you will have a really nice image of yourself that you can broadcast into your Zoom meeting. And the way you connect it is just over USB cable to your computer. So it's really plug and play. Fantastic tool. Challenge is it's like 800 francs. It's really not cheap. The other things that you see in companies are like these Logitech Rally Plus and Meetup cameras. The Rally Plus is like one of like the high-end cameras. It has very good image quality. You can zoom in very far, and it's flexible. Like it's almost a 360 degree. You have a joystick where you can control it. So you can pretty much position it in multiple places, and you can adjust even during, like you can adjust it remotely with the remote control, which if you're a one-man show doing all like AV, Zoom, and everything yourself, having that remote control, it can be nice, but it's super expensive. So, I mean, if someone happens to have that or is an enthusiast for video conferencing, it could be an option, but it's expensive. Logitech Meetup, a bit cheaper. The camera's a bit constrained. It can move as well. Nice thing there's microphone and loudspeaker integrated into it, which again, you plug this thing into your laptop and you have a kind of a functioning system.
Phil, quick interruption here.
Yeah.
Just for reference, in a contest, the camera needs to be fixed, especially on the contestant, and that's for the on-site as well as remote. So it can't be a camera that follows a contestant. So for the people that are watching this after the fact, they need to be aware of a fixed camera is required.
Okay, and these things can be fixed in position. So you can position it somewhere, adjust it how you want it, and then lock it. What is just nice is you have the options that you can zoom in and then fix the image with more options than what a standard webcam can do, right? A webcam is constrained and you can't adjust it. These things are adjustable. But yeah, Mario, absolutely. You need to control that. Otherwise, you could violate the contest rules. So that's a risk, definitely. Good point. All right. Now, this here is really hyper technical. But if you do larger events and the people's expectation to quality goes up as well. So I just wanted to show this to you. At larger events, you might have like solutions where you use a DSLR camera, which is like a professional photography or filmography camera. And then there are ways to connect those to a laptop so that it gets recognized like a webcam. And depending on the model, like if you have a Canon camera, some of them, they have a special utility software that you install on your laptop. And then you plug and play and it recognizes it like a webcam, but it's a really professional camera where you can lock everything in and make it look really nice. Again, as soon as you start with this kind of stuff, you need accessories like adapter cables or converters and stuff like this. So that's something I would really leave up to a specialist, but I just want to show you it exists. And the nice thing here is if you're lucky and you have one of those cameras, you may be able to use it. And the only thing you have to do is install a software. So you have a really nice camera and the only thing you have to do is install software. You didn't have to pay anything. Only challenge there, you need a tripod that can hold it, but usually you can find someone in your network that has it so you could borrow it. So again, great solution at no cost if you have the right contacts and you happen to have a camera lying around. Righty, next one. When the contestant stands in the front, the local presenter, we have to capture what they say with a microphone. And you can hear our remote people saying, well, I want to hear the contestant, right? So we need to find a way to facilitate that. We'll start with the easiest option where you could have the laptop at the front with a built-in microphone. It's not that good because again, it's designed for 1 meter distance. So usually the contestant will not be within 1 meter of the laptop. You'll have to be further away. I don't really recommend it. It's more like if a contestant is at home, that's a fine solution, but not like in a room. Using a smartphone integrated microphone, people think, yeah, the camera's great. That's true, but the microphone isn't. The microphone also is designed for like 1 meter distance. And as soon as you go further away, the sound quality will be worse. If you have to do it, it will work, but don't expect the highest quality. Test it. Depending on your smartphone, you may have better or worse results. The other options, you could use a webcam. Some webcams have built-in microphone. The thing here is 1 meter distance. Remember that. Also for these like the normal webcams that you put on your screen, they're designed for 1 meter distance for the sound. If you go further away, sound will be crappy. People will complain. I mean, it depends, right? I mean, if everyone's sound is crappy on the meeting, then maybe people will kind of adapt to it. But if you want to have good sound, I wouldn't go with this. Some people have asked me, hey, when we do these hybrid events, can't we just give the person a headset, like a wireless one, and have them walk around with it? Technically, yes, but it just doesn't look good. And depending on how much the contestant moves around, these things fall off. So you can do it if that's your only option, but like, I don't think I would recommend it too much. What is a bit better is if you have a clip and you can give like these little, they call them lavalier or lapel microphones, and the people just kind of clip it on. Some of these, they can connect to a computer directly, and then you have really good sound because it captures it very close to the source. In general, the principle in sound is the closer you can come to the source, which is the mouth, the better your sound will be. One creative thing that I've seen at the company where I work is the usage of wireless microphones like AirPods for sound. I think this is fantastic. There's just one challenge with it. You can't, like, I don't want to have the AirPods of another person in my ear, and I don't think you want like mine in your ears. It's like, for hygienic reasons, this is just not, like, this is not the ideal solution. Nevertheless, it captures the sound very closely. So if you're at home, that can be an option. And they have good noise canceling as well. So like if you don't have like a headset that I'm wearing, which is super sexy, I guess, but you could use AirPods and put me into the shadows with your brightness and good looks. All right, so warning. As soon as you have multiple devices in the same room, so let's say someone says, okay, I'm gonna choose to use my AirPods or whatever, and someone else comes with a laptop and they have something else, you have to be careful. As soon as you have multiple devices in the same room, then you can have feedback. And every one of us has seen it. And what most people, I guess, don't know is that you can fix this problem extremely fast by turning your microphone off and so muting yourself and putting the volume to 0. So those are the two things. There are 2 things you need to do. Muting yourself is not enough. You have to put the volume to 0, and then this feedback stops. And usually it's the last person that comes into the room and joins the meeting. That's the culprit, usually. So if you're the one who just joined the meeting and suddenly you have feedback, check your own settings. Most likely it may be you. And I just want to quickly illustrate how this works. So let's say you're using AirPods, and they're connected to the computer over Bluetooth. Then your computer sends that to Zoom. And what Zoom will do is Zoom will send that information back down to a person using an iPhone, perhaps, in the same room. And then through the loudspeaker of the iPhone, or a huge loudspeaker that someone chose to connect to the iPhone, which some people use that, as what you have is the sound from the microphone, it goes all the way to the big loudspeaker, and then it comes back into the AirPod, and then you have this feedback loop. So again, what you need to do to cut this is the person who is not supposed to have their microphone enabled, they have to mute themselves, and then this thing stops. So this actually is an interesting setup, because what you could have is you could have AirPods to capture the sound, but like a Bluetooth speaker box for the sound so that other people can listen as well. And you could have someone with a smartphone in the same room, but there again, the mic has to be muted and the volume has to be on 0. Then you can be in the same room and everything's fine. And that's actually what you see with the smartphone, to use only the camera of it. That's super useful because you can position that anywhere you want. It's just important, again, if you have multiple devices in the same room, make sure that only one device is connected to the sound. Another question that I've received is, hey, let's say you don't have a very strong loudspeaker, and you want to put up multiple loudspeakers in the room. Can't we just like connect one loudspeaker to one laptop and another loudspeaker to another laptop and turn both of them on at the same time? And the answer is no, don't do that because the sound from Zoom, it doesn't come at the same time to your laptop. It depends on the network. It depends on how fast your computer is. So there will be differences, and then you will have an echo and really strange things going on. So just don't do that. You should only have one device that does sound in any given room, and then your life is easy. As soon as you have two devices that start doing sound, then your life is hell. So what can you do for like microphones? We have looked at some options. There's some more options. You could have like a directional video microphone. These things actually can connect to an iPhone as well. They're better. You can do a bit more distance. But then the thing again is you need to know the specifications. This one here, for example, it is specified for 1 meter 80 distance maximum. So you can't do 3 meters with it and expect to have a good sound. It's 1 meter 80. That's it. And that is like the maximum. The manufacturer says basically, because of these requirements, if you go further than that, it will be horrible because they don't guarantee for a good sound. So you have to know this, like just because it's a like narrow pickup on the microphone, they call it this like super cardioid. Just because it says that, it doesn't mean that you can pick up sound from 5 meter distance. This one here, 1 meter 80, that's it. Again, the cool thing here is if you can be close to the contestant, you could mount that on top of a smartphone. If you have the right clip, some clips, they have a little thing on the top where you can push it in. This accessory would cost like 20 francs. So for 100 francs, you would have a smartphone with better sound. Depending on the product, you may need cables, so don't forget that as well. But you may have these cables already, so you have to check, like, will it connect? Okay, now my personal favorite actually are these wireless microphones from DJI and Rode. The way they work is they're like a little box that you can just clip onto yourself, as you can see in the picture of the woman. And you can walk around anywhere you like, and the sound will always be good because it's being captured close to the source. And these, like this, there are usually 3 components. You have 2 wireless microphones that you can give to people. They can turn them on and off usually. And then you have like a box that receives the signal, and that you can just connect to your laptop, and then you have that like an excellent microphone. And these things, I mean, yes, okay, they are like 250 francs, but they are fantastic. I'm just going to zoom in on the ones from Rode, I think, where you can see that there's a built-in microphone, but there also is an input to put a lapel mic, one of the ones like these small ones that you can clip here. So you can hide this box in your pocket and run a cable within your like clothing to use them. And then on your computer, on the other side, on the right side, you can just connect it over USB or use an audio jack to connect it to a smartphone. So these things are really versatile. Right, we've briefly looked at these already. There are different types. Some have this audio jack. The other one that we looked at before had the USB. So it depends on what your laptop has. If you want to get one of those, you have to check which one you need. This is all cool. So that what I've shown you so far will get you to a good level. And as soon as you have more people in the room at some point, you have to go professional. And I've seen that in a different club meeting, I think also in Switzerland, someone mentioned this Allen and Heath mixer. And the nice thing about that one is you can connect it to your laptop, and it will recognize this like a microphone. So you can plug professional wireless microphones, whatever you want to use, like from the really professional thing, just plug it into that mixer and your laptop will think it's a microphone. So it's really like within Zoom, you just select Allen and Heath and then it's connected. So it's not that difficult to get it up and running because it's a plug and play solution. But you see here the pricing, as soon as you go into the professional sphere, it gets much more expensive. Here's a creative solution, which I think this could be good for club meetings. I don't know for contests if you want to use it, but I just wanted to show you because in Toastmasters, some clubs may consider something like this. It's called Catchbox, and you have this clip-on microphone that you can give to a contestant, for example. The contestant runs around with it, is always audible perfectly. But then if you have like audience questions or something like that, you have a throwable like soft box with a microphone inside. So you can throw that, someone catches it, and when they hold onto it, there's a microphone inside. So when they talk, they will be heard very well. And this helps on discipline as well, to have meetings where not all the people are talking at the same time. Because of this cube, whoever has the cube is the one to talk. But again, this is super expensive, like 1,700 francs. You see this in the corporate area. Companies like Google use it. I just wanted to show you that you can see that it exists. Maybe we have a super rich club that is interested in trying it out. Right, let's continue. What do our remote people want? Okay, I want you to hear me too. Right, so let's say you have a person sitting at home. The people in the room, they need to hear the remote person. So we have to put up some loudspeakers. We could use the built-in loudspeakers, but again, this is really good for 1 to 3 people. But I wouldn't, like if you have 10 people, it's not loud enough. So the recommendation here is like, let's say you're doing something from home and you have a couple of people gathered at your house. Use what you have. Some people may have like desktop loudspeakers or something like that. If it can connect with your computer, try it. You may not have to buy anything. You may already have something that you can use. There's another thing that some people may have at home, and these are these Bluetooth speaker boxes. I'm not so sure about these things because they're not optimized for voice. They tend to be optimized for like party music. So yes, you can use them, but they're not like, even though for music they may be very loud, but for voice they may not be so loud. So you can't, even though like you can pair some of these things together and do a great big party, it may not be good for voice. So if you have it, try it out, see how far you get. But I don't have experience. I can't tell you exactly for how many people I would recommend this solution for sound. And there's some delay because of the Bluetooth, which, yeah, you have to test it and see how it works. If you look at like in the corporate environment, what they usually do is they give these conference speakerphones out to their people. And here I have a few categories. So let's say you have 3 people, you could use one of these biodynamic space things. You could pair 2 together and double it. So maybe up to 6 people. The next one is this Anker PowerConf. It works for up to 5 people. And on the right-hand side, we have like the bigger version of the Anker PowerConf, which works for like up to 10 people. If you look at the documentation, you may say, hey, Phil, it says it works for 10 people. So I artificially made this number a bit smaller because usually they advertise these things for big audiences. But in the end, it's like what we want at Toastmasters is we want to be able to understand each other well. So therefore, try to get a loudspeaker that's a little bit more than what you need. Otherwise, it will just not be a good experience. So let's say you have more people. You could use this polysync, which is in a corporate environment is very popular. I think it's a bit pricey. But we have a conference room with, let's say, 25 seats. And if you can pair 2 of them together, it works. Now, I think it's a quite expensive solution because it would be 600 francs. So using like a wireless microphone is cheaper and you'll have a better quality. So that's something to keep in mind. Remember, we want to capture the sound as close as possible to the source. And as soon as if you place these things in the room, they are designed to pick up sound within a 3-meter radius. But it doesn't say that it does that very well. It will pick up the sound so that you can hear it, but the quality will not be very good. So if you're standing 3.5 meters away from it, it will it could be really bad. And Teams or Zoom, it may even interpret it as background noise. And if you have noise canceling, it may just filter it out completely. So if you use these things, make sure they are as close as possible to the contestant. Then you can use them. It will be all right. So keep that in mind. Mario had asked me to show some solutions for like bigger audiences. It's a bit tricky for like 40 to 50 people to find like the ideal product. In this case, I actually would try to use one of these JBL party boxes because the price is relatively low and the volume is very relatively loud. It may work. I haven't tested this one, but as soon as you go bigger, then I would say, okay, get like one of those Mackie thump boxes. It's quite loud. It works well for sound, and it has Bluetooth, so you can connect it to your laptop wirelessly. It's the same for the JBL party box. It has a Bluetooth connection. Very convenient. You don't have cables going around, but that would work, right? If you need it, if you have bigger audiences, something like that. I'm not saying this brand, but that category of product can work. Okie doke. So what's next? I want to see the audience, right? So if we're sitting at home, we may want to see the audience. This was the optional one. So the way to do that is you would have to set up a second camera and point it towards the audience. Now, where do you position it exactly? I put it in the middle of the room. I think in the presentation that we saw before, it was on the side. If you have a smartphone on a tripod, you can play around with the positioning and see what is best. Having less in the middle of the room is an advantage because then you can focus more on the contestant and you don't have this bulk of technology standing there. So perhaps where I positioned it may not be the best. On the other side, if you have a remote contestant and he wants to see the audience, he will have more like an equal view on it because it's not like one side that's prioritized due to the angle. So it depends. We can discuss this maybe in the Q&A, what has been the best position, because I haven't really tested that out. Okay, so if you use a smartphone as a camera, well, how do you need to configure it? You join the Zoom meeting, you turn the camera on, and remember for the sound, you turn everything off, like microphone off, loudspeaker off, volume off or to 0. Because then that thing, you can move it around, place it anywhere you want, and it won't cause a feedback loop. Obviously, if you do choose to use a smartphone with a microphone, then that changes. But remember then that device should be the only one that is connected to the sound. So you would have to connect the loudspeaker there as well. Because within Zoom, the way it works is you always have to have one device that manages the sound only. So if you're using multiple cameras, that's cool, but you need one, like the sound has to go through one device. Otherwise, you will get feedback, as I showed you earlier in the picture.
Okay, Phil, can you just repeat this part? You were saying if you have a smartphone that you use it as a camera, so camera on, mic off, loudspeaker off, and volume off, and this you have to connect it through the Wi-Fi router and to Zoom. And you were saying something else, and I missed it. So can you repeat it?
I will try to see which part it is that you're looking for. So you have if you use the smartphone as an audience camera, and you already found a solution for the sound, then the audience camera should have no role to play with sound whatsoever. That's important. I think that summarizes it. Okay, the next requirements that we need to fulfill is the people in the room, they want to see the remote contestants. So obviously you can put up a projector and show the remote contestant, or you can use a screen and connect any laptop to that screen. But again, it's another device, so you want the sound off for microphone and volume so that you don't have any echo. Here's an example. You just have a laptop connected through HDMI to the projector. Make sure you join the Zoom meeting, but sound has to be completely off. If you use this laptop only for the purpose of showing the presentation and you already have something else that deals with the sound. And now the question is, to the audience in the room, the virtual audience that or these icons that I have here, can you see well? And this is a subject that oftentimes is really underestimated. I see this in our company, that they don't really know, okay, so I have a room, how big does my screen need to be? And if you do a little bit of like research, there is actually something like an ideal screen size, depending on the distance of how close you are to a screen. And I'll just skip through these slides. So let's say you're sitting on your couch and you want to find a television. There's something like an ideal size for the television, depending on how far you sit away from this. So in this case, if you're sitting like 1.80 meters away, you should have a 42-inch television. And as you go further back, the size of the television increases. And in companies, this is important because they show Excel spreadsheets and people want to be able to read what is in there. And if the screen is too small, people like need a magnifying glass. But in Toastmasters, we want to see the micro expressions in the presenter's mimic. And we can only see those micro expressions if the screen is large enough. So if we want to grade in a contest a presenter on how well he or she does with micro expressions, the screen has to be big enough. And this guide here can help you to identify the right size. And you will see that the further you go away from the screen, at some point you reach a screen size that is so humongously large that you have to go to using a projector. And when people try to select a projector, they always ask, well, which one do I need? How strong does it have to be? And there, again, are some guidelines on, depending on the distance and the brightness of the room, there are certain strengths for the projector. So if you're 4 meters away, you should have 2000 ANSI lumen. That's like the brightness metric that they use. And as you go back, you have to have a stronger projector. The thing is, as soon as like, if you have a big room, like a hall or something like that, these projectors start getting really expensive. And you also have to start, as soon as like you go further and further away, you have to think about, is my canvas does it even fit in the room? Because these guides are theoretical, but you also have to think about which constraints do I have in the room. So here, for example, if you're 8 meters away, well, at some point you need the ceiling height. Otherwise you can't go bigger. Exactly. So this is like one of the biggest projectors that you could have. If you're 10 meters away, this would be a big hall for more than 100 people. Then yeah, you need a very strong projector. Now I'm going to kind of wind down on showing you the technical solutions and have a look at best practices. I have many, many best practices gathered over these years. So it will be, I think, 3 slides full of best practices. If you want, you can screenshot them, because I believe knowing these best practices, they can help a lot in any online meeting that you're in. So again, when you do a hybrid meeting, avoid that other people connect their laptops to the sound. Otherwise, you'll get feedback. If someone joins and you have feedback, make that person leave computer audio. And if you're in Zoom, you can do that by clicking on the up arrow next to the mute button. And then you can click leave computer audio, and that will fix the problem. The other thing is you have to check if you have noise canceling enabled, or if it's better to turn it off, because depending on how cheap you go with your microphone solution, you may need to turn noise canceling off to hear the people talking. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have cut-offs with the sound, check your noise canceling, turn it off perhaps, to see if it's any better. But I don't recommend in general to turn it off, because noise canceling is important. But if you go cheap, this is something you may have to look into. Always try to reduce background noise. I had the cleaners here earlier. Some things you can control, other things you can't. But for example, if you're in the summer doing a presentation, close your windows. Traffic is really loud and it can completely disrupt the presentation. The other thing is plug your device into a power source. Don't just put your smartphone up and think it's going to last for the meeting. Connect it to power. The other thing is your laptop or smartphone, it will perform better if it's connected to power. So you will have potentially less lagging by connecting it to the power, because then the processor it has enough juice to run really well. The other thing is, if you have a network cable, try to use one. As soon as you're in a room with 50 people and you use Wi-Fi, all these Wi-Fi signals, they kind of create a storm, and yeah, you have poor performance. If you have network loss, and that's really for the Zoom master in the room, they should have a mobile phone hotspot ready so that they can just connect to that in case the venue's Wi-Fi going down. They can continue to run by using iPhone, like mobile phone hotspot. But they need to have it ready, otherwise they lose too much time to switch over. If you're using a company computer, turn VPN off and you'll have a better performance. Otherwise, you may be lagging just because of VPN being active. Another thing, I discussed this with Mario, really important, close all other applications to save computational resources. If you have many browser tabs open, close them, because this can impact the performance. Make sure you have enough disk space on your hard disk, otherwise your system will run slow. Also important factor. Some contestants don't have enough disk space and then everything is laggy. You can avoid that, avoid it. Close your email and chat applications to avoid pop-ups, because that can be super, super stressful and distracting while you're presenting. It's a must do. The other thing is install the latest version of Zoom so that you can avoid any technical problems. So if you connect to these sessions, connect in advance, then you can deal with all of that. Don't wait for the last minute. Some best practices on camera positioning. I don't know if I'm perfectly here aligned, but usually the best thing is when you position the camera, you should make sure that your eyes are somewhere on the 2/3 level of the screen and that there are no objects in the view like blocking between yourself and the camera. If you set up these in-person events, you have to kind of make sure that people can't sit in the area where your camera is positioned. So usually it's good to have the camera a bit up and to take away the chairs next to it so that people can't kind of bump into the camera or something like this. What people forget to do, I'll mention it here, clean the camera lens. I actually didn't do it today, so I don't know if the view is clear. But if you have a really important meeting or the contest, clean the camera lens. And look into the audience eyes. I don't know how good I've been doing it today. The camera lens becomes your audience, so it's important to talk to it. I haven't memorized my script here, so I'm kind of jumping back and forth. You can do that, but make sure you always come back and look into the lens. Mute yourself if not talking, super important. You don't want to disrupt the performance of another contestant. And here again, if you have echo, mute your microphone and reduce your volume to 0 if you're in the room with the rest of the people and you have to connect to Zoom. This is what you need to do to stop the echo. If your microphone stops working, try to know what your alternative is. And this is really for the audio video specialist. Sometimes the battery may run out for your wireless pack. What do you do? What's your plan B? Are you going to take a mobile phone that's connected to the Zoom audio conferencing bridge and just place it there to enable the event to continue? That's a solution. But you need to have a plan B. Otherwise, it may take too much time and people will really be on your back. So have a plan B. Mute notification sounds of your system. That's the same thing to avoid distractions. All right, I think we did it today. And Mario, you mentioned, I think, that the contests are not recorded. So if things get recorded, make sure you inform the audience, because there's a legal need to do that, I think, in Switzerland. You need the consent of the people that you record. Other recommendation, especially if you're a contestant from home, try to stand if possible. It's better than sitting, usually, if possible, of course. The other thing is lighting. I'm quite blessed that I have light coming from the front and I have no light coming from the back. If I had a lot of sunlight in the back, that could be an issue. So you have to set yourself up in a way, if you're doing this from home, that you don't have too much backlight. I'm violating this rule now. Usually we say don't use virtual backgrounds. I'm using this blurriness effect. It depends on what you have in your background. This virtual background, it can severely start screwing up. You can suddenly disappear. There can be artifacts of parts of your body missing. And if you give your speech, you don't want this to happen because people will be distracted by it. And then the person that is rating your speech, they will be their mind will be on the distractions. So if you can, just turn it off, make sure that you don't have junk in the background, and that will be better than to have a virtual background that's screwing up, because it can be super distracting. Another thing that sometimes we see as an issue is when people wear stripes on their shirt. That can cause a weird effect in a computer camera, because the camera, it registers the picture in rows and columns. And if you then move around and you have stripes, it makes a weird effect. So just avoid stripes if possible and wear plain colors. And think about what do you have in the background. If you have white wall, try to wear something dark. If you have a dark wall, try to wear something light so that you stand out from the background. Okay. Now, a quick time check. Mario, I think I'm already over, right?
Yeah, you should go through the rest. We'll extend the session as necessary. I think you and I can hang out and answer any questions, but start to wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, if you sum up all of what we've looked at today, here are my recommendations. And they're up for discussion, of course. If you're at home, use your laptop, use a webcam, a good one, if compare it with your internal one, see which one's better. Try to use a lapel mic or something that captures the sound close to the source, because you may want to stand a bit back. Just play around and see if that's a good option. Or you can use one of those speakerphones that's designed for one or two people. And these round camera lights, they can be really good to increase the picture. If you have 3 to 10 people, I would recommend not to use the internal screen of your laptop, but to connect a TV, if possible, so that people can see correctly. Then I would again recommend use a webcam, put it on a tripod somewhere, so that you can capture your 3 to 10 people. And then I would straightly go to a more powerful speakerphone, so that this one is rated, I think, for 12 people. Use that one. You will just have a better experience. If you can afford it, use the Meeting Owl. But then again, if you're a contestant, this one may not work because it switches around. This is just for audience, people viewing the event in groups, for example. Mid-sized meeting room setup. If you have 10 to 20 people, use a big TV screen, not just a small one, a big one, so that people can see correctly. Smartphone tripod can become an option, because I guess then you will start to arrange yourself in some shapes. And with the smartphone, you're really agile to go around and find the best angle to get your contestant captured. And for the sound, I would say use 2 of these Polysync 60s, join them together, and make sure that one of them is really close to the presenter. If you go to 20 to 50 people, I would use a projector if possible, or a really big plasma screen. Try to use, if you can afford it, try to use these wireless clip-on microphones. They give you the most flexibility, and no cables around. Again, you can use a smartphone. It's a perfectly fine camera option. But for the loudspeaker, you may have to get something that has a bit more watts. So this one here has like, I think 200 watts or something like this. Definitely recommended. And as your room grows, I don't know where the camera went, but I would also use a smartphone for it, and a more powerful loudspeaker. The rest I would keep the same. And the projector, obviously, it has to be a stronger one. So here we go. Those were the requirements for remote presenters and for in-person hybrid meetings, as well as the technology that you can put together. I would now break to Q&A, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and experiences on what you think about it. And if there are any questions, I'm here for you.
Thank you, Phil. Before we take a question, I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. One of the issues that we need to deal with, especially at the area level, are areas without many resources. Now, Phil talked about a lot of interesting technology today, some of it with low cost, some of it more expensive. But one of the things I wanted to say is that if you have an area with very limited resource, one of the things you can do is simply hold the area contest in your living room and just deal with the minimum materials, a laptop, maybe a lavalier microphone, and a smartphone. I think Karina had some experiences with this that she can tell us about later. But the point is that you don't need to make an elaborate arrangement if your area doesn't have a lot of resources. What is a hybrid meeting? Well, it's a combination of in-person and online. So if you have the contest Toastmaster or the contest chair and the chief judge in a room, and maybe one or two other people, and everyone else is online, that's a hybrid contest. So you could have all of the judges, all of the contestants, maybe just one or two contestants in person. So we really have some flexibility in delivering a hybrid contest if you have limited resources. So don't be afraid of that, and we can help you get through it. So let's take our first question. Santiago, you had a question?
Phil, thank you very much. As you said, I'm much more knowledgeable now about the setup, and I think I can communicate much more clearly. Just a quick question. Are you going to share the slides with us? Because I tried to screenshot things, but I don't think I got everything.
I'll be happy to share it. I don't know what is the best possibility. I believe, Mario, when people joined, they signed up. So we would be able to share a link or something like that. I'd be happy to do so.
We'll actually have a central location for this slide deck, as well as some videos of other contest academies. And we should be able to put together a video of this contest academy as well, in addition to the slides.
Can I?
Karina, yes.
Yes, it's not just a question, but maybe how do you say, a compliment to what you were presenting. There is one important thing with projecting the audience. I would avoid projecting the audience in the background of a speaker, because a speaker on the stage must have a calm background and everything has to be focused on him. And there is also a conflict when we have to move the screens from left to the right. So think about setting a room or setting a stage of a speaker that it does not collide with each other. It's less important that the speaker see online audience, or the audience see the online audience, than that we see the speaker, just that we can focus on them instead of being distracted. Oh, how the audience online is reacting, where they are. So this is also the challenge. I remember talking about it on our training last year, and trying to have this setting depending on the room size. You can make a comment. Sometimes it's possible to have it very high above the audience or in the background and stage in front, or just put it on the side. It all depends on the the locality and facility and equipment you have. And also to make the same experience between speaker speaking online and the one in the room, do not forget to delimitate the stage so you do not give more chances to someone running through the room, making big gestures, knowing that you have those audience online, which is unfortunately somewhere in his sleeping or living room and has just 10 square meters to move around. That was just my comment.
And a very, very important one. And I, in fact, did not mention one thing that you can do. So it's a kind of a conflict, you know. On one side, you want to show the remote person a very prominent way. And on the other side, when you have a local contestant coming up on stage, you don't want to have any distractions in the background. Yeah. So let's say you're using a projector. Most projectors have a remote control, and your audio video specialist is supposed to have that remote control and use the blackout button on the remote control, which basically it will just put a black picture in the background. So the contestant can come and the contestant can stand directly in front of the huge screen, even within the projection area. If a black picture is being sent, nothing matters anymore, and the problem is fixed. And you can still have the equal opportunity with having the full-sized remote contestant, but you need someone to control that. Therefore, I mean, yeah, ideally you should assign multiple people to take different roles, because if one person has to deal with everything, like from Zoom, audio, video, troubleshooting something, a battery empty here, it doesn't work. So very good comment. I will try to update that in case I ever give this presentation again to make sure that's in there. Thank you.
Does anyone have any specific room requirements that you'd like to talk about?
Or does anyone disagree with something that I have said? For me, honestly, I know that you have been there and done that, perhaps with different equipment, and you've achieved your results. Some results may have been fantastic, other results may have been bad. So, do you see any surprises in something that I've presented, or something? Is there anything that you would have done differently? Or maybe if not, you could share an experience of an event that you had where you perhaps did you use any of the equipment that I've shown? That would be interesting for me. Like, do you have experiences with any of the things that I've shown? Something familiar in the pack.
Kittel, you had a comment? Question?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. New headphones, new microphone, new laptop. I don't know what's going on here. One of my clubs has regular hybrid meetings, and I think we have a good handle on it. Chances are that's going to be the venue for our area contest. My question to Phil is, could you come to one of our meetings between now and the area contest and see how we do our meetings, and maybe let us know if we're doing everything right or if there are ways we can improve?
Perhaps. Maybe we can exchange contacts or something like this. And usually the easiest way to find me is through LinkedIn. But otherwise, maybe through Mario, we would be able to connect. Obviously, I don't know if I can manage the timeline that you mentioned, but in general, we could have a phone call, or we could do a video call. If that helps, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Celine.
Yeah, just a quick observation from our experience to answer your question, Phil. When you use lapel mics, sometimes it really depends on the clothing that the person is wearing. It may so happen that there is really not enough space or not a good way to attach the lapel mic, and that if you don't have an alternative, it might really catch you off guard.
Did you have that situation? What did you do?
Yeah, it ended up being a situation where the person in question was holding the mic in their hand, but then it really restricts hand gestures and body movement, and it also has a big impact on the quality of the sound. We had to improvise because it was what it was, but it's also something to keep in mind for contingency.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good point. Lapel and clothing. Notes taken. Thank you.
A quick comment on this. At one of our division contests, we had the Rode wireless microphone, the little clip-on box. Rather than clipping it onto the contest Toastmaster and then to the contestants, because we only had one microphone, we put it on a lanyard and hung it over the neck, and it actually worked quite well. So that's a solution. It was a little awkward exchanging it every time, but it was a solution.
I agree. It was like putting a medal of the winner, each one on someone, but I must say it was, from everything what I experienced, the easiest solution that I saw in your division, Mario, last year. Instead of taking time to clip this and to find a way, where can I make a hole somewhere, or how can I clip it? Yeah, so this is very good.
Right. We'll wait for other questions. In the meantime, Karina, I'd like you to relay briefly the story of having an area contest in your living room and the lesson learned about the power and so on.
Exactly. So we faced the problem of money and venue and equipment, and if you live not far away where you need special transportation, and I live in Zurich, I organized 2 area contests in my apartment. One with 15 people, another one we had someone like 15 and 17, and it was a hybrid mode, and I was using also my monitor, so work monitor, to project the contestants, and it worked well, and it was uncomplicated. We used the sleeping room as a breakout room or judges room, so it was absolutely funny. And I think even though you enter someone's intimacy, sometimes it's the easy solution if you can manage this. We used also the cameras. I had this equipment. The camera microphone was not needed because of the size. If you have 50 square meters and you have 15 people, you don't need a special microphone, but you have to pay attention that the audience is not making noise around you, because then your camera, I had a Logitech camera with the integrated microphone, but it was in front of the speaker. So we had to be sure that the audience is quiet, otherwise it will capture also a whispering of the audience. And we used iPhones as an audience camera placed on the side. So someone that was on site entered the Zoom as a participant, switch off the audio, or as you say, it's easier just to put sound on 0 and switch off microphone. And we fixed this iPhone as a, to capture the audience. So those on Zoom could see us in the room. That was the good, nice experience. Yes, and we could, familiars stay to have a drink after the contest.
One question, Karina. Did you have a tripod for the mobile phone?
Yes, I had a tripod, and I have also this bigger tripod for the camera.
Yeah.
I had all the small things that at the last year it was Stefan Bletti, a German-speaking Toastmaster who is also a cameraman and who inspired me to invest in this equipment. And we shared also the equipment with him. So we had we used the camera, we used a big tripod and a small tripod for the iPhone. So these elements were, yes. And we did not have a projector, as you said. We had a just big, not TV screen, but something you use as a monitor for the computer. And one laptop. Exactly, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Karina. If there are any other questions, let me know. In the meantime, I just had another quick story. We ran a novice contest recently, and 2 mistakes we made were that we didn't very well in advance account for the beamer, the overhead projector, because the room didn't have one available for us, and the loudspeaker. In the end, we managed. Damian, who's here with us today, was our AV person that day, and we happened to borrow a really good projector, which worked, but it would have been, I think, better had we planned in advance to have that projector rather than doing it on the day before. And the same with the speaker for the room. So these are things you need to think about in advance. We've come up to the 9 o'clock hour. Are there any more questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Elena.